Okay, I want to bring the Selectmen's meeting, October 29th Selectmen's meeting. It's 7:06. We met in an executive session in the Selectmen's office, and we're going to continue our meeting here. I'm going to open up with a few announcements. I want to remind everybody again that early voting during regular business hours is commencing on October 22nd, which is obviously passed, and it will be ending on November 2nd. That's actually not true. Don't we have Saturday hours also?
They passed. There was only one Saturday last weekend.
Thank you. Trick or treat is this Wednesday, October 31st. It'll be from 5:30 to 7:30. Please be safe, wear colorful clothes, and stay off the main streets. Town office will be closed on Monday, November 12th, in observance of Veterans Day. The Rural Policy Advisory Committee listening session
That sounds exciting.
is November 14th from 6 to 8 at the Newbury Town offices, 12 Kent Way in Newbury, Mass. If somebody wanted to know more about that, they're wondering if they want to go or not, and there is a survey that they have out there. Will we be having this on our website?
Yes.
You can go to our website to get more information about it and have an understanding about it, to see if you'd like to attend. The last announcement that I have is the FY 2019 tax classification hearing will be Tuesday, November 13th at 7 p.m. That is a regular scheduled Selectmen's meeting. We'll be having it on Tuesday, obviously not Monday because of the holiday. Joe, do you have any more announcements?
Yeah, just two things real brief. In conjunction with your early voting allowance, Election Day itself is on Tuesday, November 6th. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the annex. And then secondly, in collaboration with the Council on Aging, the Board of Assessors will be hosting 2 informational sessions on tax abatements and whatever the other, on tax abatements for seniors, veterans, and disabled. The first session will be held on Wednesday, November 14th at 12 noon in the Council on Aging office, 381 Main Street.
Okay, Archie, do you have anything? Do you have anything, Angus? No. Okay. Well, then let's start our regular business. Cynthia Quinn. Come on up, right here. The microphone is on. I would ask you to speak in the microphone, please, so people can hear you at home on TV. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Cynthia Quinn. I'm a member of Holy Redeemer Parish, which is partly at 300 Main Street in West Newbury and 4 Green Street in Merrimack. And I'm here to request permission to put out 2 signs on town property, which would advertise our fair. The signs are painted white, they're wooden, they're 2-sided, they're professionally printed with the information. We'd like to place them out Friday, November 2nd, and they would be removed Sunday, November 18th. It's to advertise our annual fair, which has been going on for 30, 40 years, way before me. And it's a yearly event that we hope people will come to help support the parish, which brings our communities together. It helps to raise money for the activities that we do within the parish and for the community. Anything else?
No, I have a couple of questions, though.
Sure.
Well, comments. Okay, we have no authority to allow a sign in the park across from the boat ramp. That is correct. Right?
Parks and Rec, yep.
Park and Recs do that, so we have no authority to do that. But one thing, my bigger point is that I would like, when somebody does this, to make sure that they know that before it gets to this point. I knew you were coming because of my neighbor.
Which she did tell me that also.
She stopped me as she was going down the street one day when I was getting my car, and I told her that we had no authority of doing it there. I'm not sure about the training field of saying yes or no to, but I know we have the authority for that. We just need to be better, I think. I don't know if you might have even said this to them, so we have to understand that the Board of Selectmen don't have authority saying yes or no in a few places, one being that, and then one being Bachelor Field back here. Because that was given, the land back here was given to Park and Rec, and we have no authority over that. And a town meeting vote made that, the little park, it's called Ferry Park, took it out of control of the Board of Selectmen and gave that control with Park and Rec. So we don't have any authority to do that.
Thank you for clarifying that. We're looking for just 2 locations that would be visible on the main street. We're thinking at the.
What's wrong in front of the church?
We'll include that.
Okay.
So anywhere else we'd
Okay.
like to do it.
So now, the only thing we really have in front of us is they'd like to place something on the training field.
We could also discuss maybe putting it at the Page School, front of the police station, front of here. Main Street would be fine, ideal. Any.
So, but in front of us is the training field, so let's just get that. Do you have any comments or anything about the training field, Joe?
Well, I think it's a very worthy cause. Just historically, the training field, we don't allow signs on, with the exception of the Garden Club annual event. It's been grandfathered, that they've been doing it for years and years and years. And we have a couple other places that we just, so. You know, I don't know if there's other places like you just mentioned. I don't know if any of them would be a good place, but yeah, Main Street does make sense, and I don't know where though.
You have any comments about the
I
training field?
would ditto exactly Joe's comments. I'd be more amenable to other town spot except the training field.
And you want them to be put up this Friday?
Yes.
Do you have any other suggestions where you would allow them to be? So give her one spot. We can't do the Park and Rec, but I would ask them. They probably would say yes. We just don't have the authority to do that.
If I might, Chairman, Park and Rec actually meets tomorrow, so I could forward this request, and perhaps they could take up the Ferry Street request at their meeting tomorrow.
Sound good?
That's fine.
In terms of that one.
Thank you.
How big are these signs?
They're about 3 feet tall and 2 feet wide.
Oh, so they're pretty small.
So why don't we do it? Do we have it in front of the Page School? There's a ton of people that go in and go out of there.
That would be fine.
Or across the street which is also one Main Street, where the little pump.
You know, Pipe Stave. You
Yes.
come up and you take a right. Someplace right there.
And that's,
Off the road.
yeah, so if you go in that driveway to that's municipal land.
Yep. So
Okay.
anywhere there, on the left-hand side, not the right-hand side.
On the south side of 113.
Okay, across from the entrance to the Page School.
Yes.
Actually, I think that would be better for you.
That's fine, yeah.
Actually, that's a good idea. That makes sense.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
There you go. Have a good night.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for coming.
Cindy, we'll follow up with you in the morning regarding Park and Rec.
Okay,
I think there was a request, Angus, that came in that for some reason didn't get put on, but it was made timely for lacrosse signs.
That's right. It came into Annie's email the Friday before she was off for a week, and she had set an auto response that went when she was off for the week, but not on the Friday before. So we didn't realize it had come in until she returned to the office today. So this was a request similar, not identical, but similar to something that the board had acted on last fall. This is for signage regarding lacrosse.
Okay, so you want to take it, 45 Church Street, my house. We have no authority there. They can put something there. The park between the bridge and the church.
Parks and Recs.
Church Street, that we have no authority of that. That's Park and Rec. 1 Chase Street, that's a residence. We have no authority at that. 5 Bridge Street, the Flaherty residence. We have no authority on that. 243 Main Street, we have no authority on that. The entrance to Pipe Stave, we have authority on that.
That's fine.
And on the island, at the intersection of Stewart and Main, I think we don't want things on islands.
My last one, no.
Okay, so we'll make a motion that they can put one at the entrance to Pipe Stave. All in favor? Aye.
Second, aye.
Thank you. Sound good?
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you, Joe.
No problem.
Okay, we received a letter on October 11th, 2018. I'm just going to read it. Please accept this letter as my intent not to renew my contract as the West Newbury Police Chief, which will expire on the 24th, the contract, 2019. After much discussion with my family, I have decided to retire after 34 years of service. I appreciate the opportunity the board and the town gave me for 3 years as their new police chief. And we thank the chief for the same thing. We appreciate it. And then we have also on the interim police chief as effective date of retirement. You want to discuss that? So there'll be a process put in place. We're going to post a job description for a new chief. Is that correct, Angus?
That's correct.
And then we'll be set forth with a process? Yes. And then the appointment would come back to the Board of Selectmen to appoint a new chief?
Correct.
Okay? And within that process, if that process is not completed in time and the chief leaves, we're going to have an interim police chief, as we did before, until that new person is appointed. Right?
Yep.
Right? Okay. So, Angus, you want to speak to that at all?
No.
Okay. So, do we have any suggestions? Your thing, Lincoln. Do you have any suggestions or recommendations?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, okay. So I would make a motion that Sergeant Durant would be the interim chief as he was last time when we were going through a transition. Is there a second? Any discussion?
I would just note that I did speak with Sergeant Durand in the event that was the recommendation, and he is available, and he said he'd be happy to support the town in any way during the transition.
Okay.
My only question, and this is not pro or con of Sergeant Durand, because I think this would apply to anybody that's on the police department, that in terms of administrative skills to recommend a budget, which we'll be starting to work on soon, I think that's a gap that we need to fill in some way. I don't have a solution, but I think there's, there'll be some help that'll be needed in some fashion.
You don't know that. I don't know that. But wanted to make sure that Angus you have no clue. I have no clue. And
could we ask Angus that question?
And then why don't we just say make sure that doesn't happen, and Angus can oversee that.
Okay. When we spoke, he did actually volunteer that budget preparation wasn't part of what he had done, but I can certainly speak with him in more detail. It was we spoke for about 4 minutes, so.
So he did say that.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Because you didn't say that.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Joe, are you abstaining or not? Are you voting present?
No, I said aye. I said aye.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yep. Review of West Newbury financing options for the proposed new school construction.
So,
Go ahead, you can do it.
So Joe and I have been working pretty closely on this, and I'll be happy to turn it over to him for details. But in a nutshell, we are, as you know, Chairman Kemper and I are both on the school building committee, so we've been, right in the loop in terms of as the project has moved forward. So we have put together a model based on the information provided by Pawtucket on the total estimated school costs, the estimated state
Excuse me, Angus,
yes.
I'm sorry. Why don't we have,
Oh,
yeah, I saw him earlier and I said, oh, good, he's here for this, and then I forgot before he, so why don't we have the superintendent come on up, and if we have any questions of him, or he could be part of the discussion
Hi.
in some way. How are you? Thank you, Doctor. Welcome.
so based on the estimated total cost, the estimated state reimbursement, and the remaining balance, which would be the local cost, and then the allocation of those costs across the 3 towns based on the approved methodology. That's basically what brought us to this summary sheet that you have in front of you, and this takes into account both the capitalization of the school funding stabilization, as well as what would be required for a future override. So that's basically where you see the division between the two buckets of money, if you will. So some of the assumptions that are built into this is a median home value of $531,000. This summary assumes that town meeting would continue to contribute retiring debt to the school stabilization fund, and our model, we had projected forward the amount of retired debt per year.
Do you have this model with us? And that's a huge assumption.
Yes,
That's a huge
100%
assumption.
agree
That's
with
not even one that we kind of even.
I totally agree
I don't
with
even
that.
know if we're in agreement as a board on that. Okay?
Well, I think that's why we're here to
Yeah, I
talk.
know.
about
So Glenn, what's your question?
Where's he says he has a model that goes out with the retiring debt.
It does.
I'd like to.
It's not in the packet.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
to be able to
my-
plan, we need to understand.
Yeah,
what the retiring
let
debt-
him finish, then I have a few questions too, yeah.
Okay.
So this does not include projection of future non-school debt, which obviously is another big, over 30 years, there will be other debt. But this is based on a total project cost of $151.1 million, with a district share of $95.2 million, with West Newbury's share of $25 million. This assumes annual debt service of $1.6 million. That's based on a 30-year bond at 5%. So as applied to the median value home, the annual cost would be about $925, of which $415 would be out of stabilization, again, based on the assumption that that continues to be capitalized over the life of the debt, and $510 coming from an override. So, Joe, did you want to elaborate?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Okay, I just want to back up a little bit. I just want to stress to anybody watching, I can't stress this enough, until there's a final number from Pentucket, and then B, a commitment from the MSBA, this is only an estimate, and the numbers are going to change. So these aren't the numbers. The reason we're having this discussion is because I don't want, or we don't want, I don't think, West Newbury taxpayers to think that the average single-family house taxes are going to increase by $1,000, because they're not. And that could be the assessment that we get, and ballpark it probably will be. But, you know, how we and town meeting choose to apply that assessment and pay that assessment is, you know, that's a different thing. And that's a decision that each individual town will have to make. Yeah, Angus went through the numbers, so I'm not going to repeat that. But as far as the numbers, these are just the publicly stated numbers that have been out there, that have been in the PowerPoints, the 151 million, blah, blah, blah. And we, West Newbury, equated what we got from Pentucket to, based on our current taxes, of a total of $925,000 annual tax impact to the medium single-family taxpayer. So to answer your question, though, as far as the model, the spreadsheet, so if it's a total of $925,000, and if you our current debt will fully retire in 2024. Okay, so what this does, and I think that's $624,000, if I recall. So there's debt will continue to retire. So it takes the difference of where we're at now to the 624 out of what we've saved, and then the balance that's left in what we saved just applies it to the whole 30 years. So it's just taking the money and applying it, so we have a flat payment. So that's the $415,000, and I think, you know, if you want to look at the spreadsheet, that's what you'll see. And if taxpayers want to ballpark their individual property tax, they can do that by multiplying their assessed value by 0.001. And I just want to repeat what I started with. This is just an estimate. It's based on today's numbers. The final cost is going to be different when it's all approved. That's it.
And one more point I would add is the model that we built is, it's actually pretty, it's nice because you can adjust the assumptions and it will flow right through the multiple sheets on the spreadsheet. So part of the goal was to come up with an estimate. Part of it was to build a model that's editable and can be, you can say, well, what if it's 4.3% interest on the bond, not 5? And or what if the, so on and so forth. All of those are basically, you key punch those inputs and it will flow entirely through.
Our retiring debt right now is it's up to like 300 and something thousand, 320 or something like that.
315, I think.
Yeah, and we're going to get to 624 by 2024. So that's a big difference. I don't know what other towns' debt schedules are, but that might be something that they might want to think about to try to mitigate. I mean, we've been doing this for years, so we've got a little bit more reserve, but just something they might want to consider. I mean, they have got to make their own decisions.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've heard in the other towns that like in the new police station in Merrimack, for example, that chief went ahead and just described that over the course of years, $200 a year is what they were looking to assess, but it wouldn't really be $200 because they're retiring debt as well.
Oh, so they already took it?
So, yeah, if that. So, but I think it's a great idea to just make sure that people understand that number put out there, one, is just an estimate, and it's a conservative estimate, and two, it's not really going to be that number. It's going to be something that's much less.
Archie, do you have some questions?
Yeah. My question, I guess, what did you assume was the time of the bonding, in other words, because that matters, when you're starting the bonding, and why'd you pick 5% for interest rate? That just seems a little high.
I think that was one of the assumptions from Greg.
Yeah, that was an assumption that came from the school district. We wanted to be very conservative with the numbers to make sure that we were not. You don't want to tell someone it's going to be $5 and it's $5.10.
Okay.
You'd rather say $5 and it's $4.90.
So you think that it is possible that the district can do better than that, though?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of your first question, I believe we had the first complete year of debt service in '22, and we assumed half of that in FY '21.
Yep. Okay.
There's a lot, these models that you've been working on with Joe, and there's a lot of assumptions on here that we agree with. I'd actually like to, at a different meeting, or maybe this meeting, get some of these models and understand what that retiring debt is, what specifically it is, and how much it is, and before we go with this model, because I'm not in agreement. I want to have some more discussions about this.
What's the question?
Do you have any more questions on this? Because I have some questions. Before I interrupt you?
No.
Okay, so on this, just one piece of sheet that we got tonight, and obviously there are models or something that back all this stuff up. Okay, the projected cost is 151. Our portion is 25 million. That's on population, correct?
Correct.
Population of the high school?
District.
Of the district. So it has nothing to do with, so it has to do with our elementary school also.
Yes.
So it just doesn't have the population, okay. So does this number, excuse me, this question was asked of me, and I didn't have the answer to it. Does that, through the 30 years of debt, does that number change if our population goes down? Or does that number increase if the population goes up?
It does.
Or does it just start off, it starts off at whatever it is when we bond, and that's it?
I believe it changes. Angus, I believe it changes each year. but
That's
I'm not-
my
it's
impression
the
also.
Enrollment of the students, and the percentage gets shifted each year, but
Yes, it's recalculated.
I'm not 100% on that. I'm pretty confident that
I think
So-
Greg had told us that, right? That it is?
It was kind of
Actually, I
a,
haven't asked
No.
that question. I've had that same question.
So it was
Somebody said that.
Goes up and down.
it was kind of a rhetorical question. I kind of knew the answer to it, but wanted to make sure, but so it goes to my next question. Does whatever model that you guys have projected in here, that you have, does that take that into account? So what,
No.
So what happens?
You can't. How would you know that
You
number?
don't, but so there is no leeway. So it could go down, theoretically.
could do anything.
And it could go up.
That's kind of what the opening sentence was.
So, no, but I'm talking about, the opening sentence was that we don't know what the amount is because we're in schematic design and and we don't know what the proportion is. But you and Angus have made some model to come up with these figures, and 20 years in that model, the numbers could change because the population could change.
Not could, will, yeah. Yes, yes.
Or it could stay the same. All we know is we don't know.
Unlikely.
So what do we do?
Well, we'll adjust whatever the percentage
To
is.
get more debt, we would have to make it up, we would have to make it up on our end. You can't go.
But Glenn, no matter, even if you know to the penny what it is in 2022, for example, you have no idea we have no idea what's gonna happen 10 years after, down the road from that.
I agree with you, but so I just want to make sure that we have
But
to.
even under the best circumstances, even if
I
the
agree with
model
you.
was perfect, you still don't know what the
No, it's not
population
all
is
about,
going to be.
it's not all about the model. It's about making sure that we understand that in 15 years, we might have to go to town meeting, or we might have to put a free cash influx into our debt payment because, or we have to raise our taxes. Well, we're going to be, it's almost, we have to understand what this is going to be every year. It's not like it's not like buying $1.2 million for the Dunn property. We know what our payment's going to be for the next 30 years. This potentially could change up or down for the next 30 years.
Yeah, I
We
think,
just have to
I
make
think
sure we understand that going in.
I think the total debt borrowed stays the same. It's just the proportioning based on student population.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if I could also, I think what you're speaking to is what you do a population analysis. Someone comes in and says,
Mm-hmm.
okay, in the 3 towns, you're going to see this kind of growth in Groveland here, in Merrimack, and here in West Newbury. And then you can still guesstimate, but you're right. You're never going to know exactly the
have no
number of
clue.
students.
So-
It's got to be. I
So
have
with
to
this
believe something
model,
close.
we have to understand, like, all these numbers are going to change.
Yes.
But I think we're all taking the assumption that they're going to change because we're only kind of guessing how much the building's going to cost. We're kind of guessing on how much the MSBA is going to give us. We kind of know. These are pretty good numbers, right? So we can get where we are, which is important, right? But our share of 25 million, no matter what that number is, our share is going to change. Could go down, it could go up.
Right. Yeah, the purpose of this is, this is an extreme. I had one person say they were considering having to move because their taxes were going to go up $1,000 and they couldn't afford. So, and that's not the case. So that's why we're putting it out there.
Now, without this, you have, what is it, $415 in here that's going to be paid under stabilization, already paying, or does that mean it's already
Some of it
paid?
has already been paid in, not
That's if we continue to do the current program of.
Which is what?
Of raising whatever retired debt we have. So if we continue to do what we've done for the last 3 years.
That amount right there of $415 has no influx of free cash in it at all going forward.
Correct.
It only has
That's correct.
retiring debt.
That's correct.
But that's with continued contribution of retired debt toward that stabilization over the life of the debt.
That's correct.
Like, in other words, Glenn.
I understand.
No, but so that people listening understand too, it's, just to pick the number, we put in, what did we put in, like 320, was it something?
So we have in there now, you mean?
Yeah.
For this particular
Yeah,
year.
yes.
Well, this assumption would assume that 320 plus additional recurring debt would be going in for the next 30 years. That has to happen.
Yes.
So how much-
There's currently a balance of 1.25 million.
In there.
Right.
Right. So what this relies on is the continued capitalization of that over the
By-
life
Yeah, I
of.
think,
No, no, but-
I think
but
people
no-
don't know what the
basically,
word capitalization means.
yeah, so
We
putting
should
a lot
be a
of-
little more.
Well, capitalization, but no free cash money, but only retiring debt.
That's right. So that 625 that's currently embedded in the budget and in the tax rate is not considered part of the incremental cost.
And retiring debt that you're very specific about.
Correct.
So,
Yes,
in somewhere you can show us that?
I sure can.
It's on the, if you look at the debt schedule, it's basically anything that's not water or not the Dunn property, it's everything else.
Until when?
Well, until 2024, then there is nothing.
So I actually, if we could, however you guys came up with this, it would be nice to get all the backup
Yeah, it's a-
model stuff.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's a bunch
So
of,
we're not,
it's a bunch of spreadsheets.
so we're talking about this tonight to, like what you said, ease the
Yes.
fears of individuals that the numbers that are coming out, which are real numbers, but people need to understand that we've already started taking measures to make sure those numbers are more rounded for our individuals rather than having spikes.
Right, so based
But
on,
we're not agreeing to do this.
based on the current estimates, West Newbury would pay 45% less than the current projected numbers.
And Glenn, this is something, so again, so that the people know, we voted on these at annual town meeting each year to, as a warrant article, to put that retired debt in the stabilization for the school building. So it doesn't mean that that it couldn't be voted down, people could be against it or whatever, but for the past three or 4 years, we have done that. But we have to do it every single year for that 30-year period.
Well, actually, until it's all retired, then it could just be a line item.
Well, either way, but they'd still have to vote to put that into
As-
the account.
As, well, yeah, as any,
They would, yeah.
as any appropriation has to be
Yeah.
voted.
So have we taken provisions that, what if somebody says, you know what, it's kind of foolish, but I don't want that retiring debt to go in there. When we incurred that debt, I wanted that debt, we were under the assumption, it's almost a bait and switch. We were under the assumption that that was going to be taken off the tax roll when that debt was retired. Now you're going to continue that debt on something different. And so that actually,
No, we're not. That's why it could be, that's why we're voting on it, hear me out, that's why we're voting on it annually. A debt is something that we would be held to, and we're not voting on it annually because it has to be paid. Whereas this is something we're voluntarily, when it's not we're not signing on to it as debt, we're voluntarily using the same amount to put into this school stabilization account, but it's strictly voluntary. We don't have to vote that.
yep, I agree.
Okay, that's
agree.
different, that's different than taking on debt that we would have to do
agree
for
with you,
30
but
years. So
this is
there's
the
a
way-
little difference there.
Yep, but this is a way too, then getting around 2.5, because if we took that off, there'd be so much debt that there'd be a different vote, wouldn't there be? You know what I mean by that? We have retiring debt, so you're just telling, hey, that debt's there, we're not taking it off the tax roll, but you still have to vote to put it towards this and put it towards this fund so we can pay that annual debt service that we have. So we're not taking it off. If we took everything off, right, and we didn't use the retiring debt, our numbers, and you'd have to have a different, like an override vote on this.
But having said that, we'd have more money because it would lower the tax rate that 600,000 that you didn't vote voluntarily. It's sort of the same.
It is, but you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Okay, so I'd like, if we could now, I think as a town, we probably should have the spreadsheets and understand what's going on here, so we could say this is a plan or this is not a plan, and really work it out and know exactly what that debt is and so forth and so on, and not just get this and say, okay, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. But I think tonight's thing was important for Joe to make sure that the people understood that the numbers they're hearing of $1,000 aren't really going to happen, because we already have mechanisms in place, like the $1.25 million that we already have in a stabilization account that's going to go against our debt service.
That's great.
Anything else?
Nope.
But I just want to make sure that everybody knows this isn't a voted way of doing it. This was a suggestion that we've done.
Town meeting has to vote it.
Yeah, but at a future meeting, I think that we as Board of Selectmen should then get together as a board and say, hey, listen, this is the way we want to go, which we haven't taken yet, right?
Well, we have taken it because we voted it every.
Yeah, but we really.
year. People understood what they were doing, I hope.
Well, they understood what we're doing, but I don't think we've come out with a total, like, hey, this is our plan for the next 30 years.
No, we haven't done that.
Well, and at the end of the
And which
day,
another Board of Selectmen in 15 years could change.
right, at the end of the day, no Board of Selectmen can bind the actions of a future board, nor can a town meeting bind the actions of a future town meeting. So whether the funds are raised and put into stabilization, and then that's used to partially pay down the debt, or whether the money is raised and toward the debt directly, at the end of the day, we're talking about $1.6 million a year over 30 years. So that's
A lot of money.
That's a big payment, $1.6 million annually.
So in other words, the 1.25 is less than 1 year's payment. Oh,
We thought we were doing great.
I thought we were doing
Yeah, Archie, it's not as much the money that we put in the fund, it's more the amount that we've raised, that we don't have to raise more when this has to be paid in a few years.
Off of our tax.
That's the whole point of it.
the increment.
Yeah.
It's like this rather than like this.
Because our taxes will go up 500 and something dollars versus $1,000.
So
That's,
one final question, so I won't beat this to death, but if I recall correctly, the money that we borrowed for the paid school did not have a flat amortization. What about it seemed like it was a little lower, then it went up, and then it's starting to gradually go down again. So what does this one do?
that's correct about paid school.
Okay, but what about
This
this
is
one?
based on a level payment over the life of the debt, which had been my experience with public bonding, and I verified that with Greg LeBrecq. He said that.
So
that would be
it's
his
based
So
on,
why did the page do that?
I don't know. It's based
Might have
on,
been the rate, it might have been how it was, I don't know.
it's,
Okay.
Archie, it's just how it's paid. It could be done either way. I mean, if it was higher and went down, we would just put a bigger chunk earlier, and so
What is
it
a
really
percentage
doesn't matter.
point- What does a percentage point do?
I took it down to I believe it brought it from from 5 to 4. I think brought it to 1.4 something. Does that ring a bell, Joe?
I don't know.
It wasn't. It was a difference, but it's
$200,000, but it's not as much as you might think.
still a big number.
Well, 200,000 is,
A lot of money. I wouldn't mind seeing all that stuff that you and Joe were
that's
working
part of
on.
as a bit
It's on the shared drive.
sidetrack, but as Glenn knows, as chair of the Cable Advisory Committee, we've been working on getting a screen, because that way we can do this stuff and everyone can see it, and we're
one
moving
final
close on that.
question that I had thought of before. Probably not, but I just wondered, is it possible that the town could separately borrow its money independent of the
School district.
school district, and prepay the school district our amount, and then with the idea that maybe we could get a better interest rate? Just asking.
So then, if our portion's $25 million, we go out on our own, bond $25 million and just give you guys $25 million and say, okay, there's our portion. And then if we have to, because of population, if we ever have to, we'll figure it out if we owe you a little bit more at the end. Can you do that? Mike? Angus? Anybody?
To me, that's a Greg LeBrecq question.
Yeah, it's definitely a Greg LeBrecq question, but.
The regional agreement was amended a couple of years ago to allow any municipality to prepay their bonded debt, instead of taking indebtedness, they just prepay it. So the regional agreement has that provision within it. And we did that, in fact, with regard to prepaying the
Right.
amount for the field.
Fields, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Angus, could you figure out just for giggles what we could get as a rate?
I can, but here we are in FY '19.
It doesn't matter, really.
We're talking about 2 to 3 years out, so I don't know that that would be time well spent.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the better thing is with the model, we can plug in an interest rate and it will spit right back out how that affects the annual payment. So that allows us to test different theories, but I think, you know, to try to estimate where we'd be in FY '21, I think is a.
But that would help the district out too. If we prepaid them $24 million,
We were paying down debt.
right off the bat.
That's true,
right,
yes.
You would.
See,
you
it's a
would-
win-win.
You would have to then, you would be able to, you wouldn't have to incur as much debt because you would have seed money up front. Right?
You have to worry about us getting up to our debt ceiling now.
Yes.
There's only a limit that the town can borrow.
Oh,
Yeah,
in total,
Before
right.
it gets, you know.
No, in total, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yep.
you're not like
That's true.
living paycheck to paycheck, so to speak, like a house. You only can get. Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Any more concerns, questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Jim.
That 1.25 for stabilization, that's that education stabilization.
Correct.
Correct, yes.
That we've, that thanks to the great taxpayers of West Newbury, we've been putting away. Good, thanks, guys.
Can I just a quick comment?
Sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having this conversation. I think it's a great conversation to have and a really important one for the taxpayers to understand that when numbers are put out there, that's not necessarily the number that gets paid. I think, so whatever the model ends up being, and we have these conversations about, you know, the assumptions that get made. There's the estimate, then you have the 5%, 30 years. We'll have a lot of that locked down in the spring, but we still won't have the exact interest rate. That won't be locked down. We can, so we'll have to guesstimate. But I think it is a great exercise of just making sure folks in West Newbury understand it's not $1,000. All these other things get paid down, and it drops quite a bit. So I appreciate it. Applaud
Okay.
you for doing that.
Okay,
Thank you
good.
very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we didn't want to kind of front run your discussion, but we wanted to be open and transparent to our taxpayers. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because we're being asked these questions too many times, you know what I mean? So it's important, because they want to know, most people don't pay attention to the details, and they know we're doing something at town meeting, and things are getting voted on, and we're putting money away for something, so they kind of wanted to know, and which is good, and Joe kind of pushed us, they get it out there, kind of know what that's going to all mean now, because it's becoming a little bit real.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Myopia Hunt special event application. Any questions, guys?
No.
Is it fit all the questions and stuff that you guys had?
Yep, we got the map came through and all the backup with that, so it's an event they do every year, so we just
Yep.
needed the documentation.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we're looking at the one for November 6th, that was my only.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the last one.
Okay, E. Angus?
All right, so as you know, part of the Drake's Landing development, 10% of the units need to be affordable to qualify for the town subsidized housing inventory. The State Department of Housing and Community Development is extremely prescriptive on the a number of documents need to be voted and approved in order for those units to be added to the inventory through the local initiative program. So what you have before you, we received from the developer's attorney just last week, and so I don't know, well, so the documents include the deed restriction, the affirmative fair marketing plan, and the regulatory agreement. And where these were just received last week, I know town council had some initial questions. I've sent them over to the developer's attorney. I'm not sure if we're ready to recommend a vote. I would say that at least on the Part B, on the authority to sign the regulatory agreement once approved as to form by DHCD. I know from many years of working with them, they don't deviate from the form. So I would recommend a positive vote on that one. On the first one, we found a couple of typos in there. An email address that wasn't right. There was a reference that Mike had caught to a foreign corporation. I did try to get an answer from the attorney. I haven't been able to connect with her today. So I don't know. I guess I would defer to the board on whether you want to move forward or whether you want to table it. But I don't really see any harm moving forward if the documents are approved once they're in a form acceptable to town council, because there is a really very little, if any, discretion that we're allowed in this instance. And if the goal is to get these units into the subsidized housing inventory, which of course it is, we kind of need to play by the state's rules.
So you're recommending approval contingent upon review of the town council and town manager?
I believe so. I would look to Mike. I was out sick much of today, so we didn't have a lot of time to talk about it. So I would.
Yeah, I mean, the document's pretty standard. I mean, and 95% of the document deals with the developer responsibilities as opposed to the town. There is some town responsibility, which I think we want to look at and at least understand what processes need to be made, and that was one of my questions that we sent over to the developer. But that's a minor thing. So from this board's perspective, and as Angus said, we really don't have a lot of discretion. This is a form that's promulgated from the Department of Housing, and so it gets us the subsidized units.
There was one issue with if they were unable to find a person who fit the demographic criteria for the income limits, that at a certain point the town might be step in
That's optional.
as a subsequent buyer and then resell it and stuff. That seemed a little like that would be kind of a pain in the neck for the town. But that's optional?
Yeah, I mean, the town, they have to offer it to the town.
Oh, exactly, right,
They
yeah.
have to, allow the town the opportunity to, but the town doesn't have to buy it.
The town doesn't have to.
It used to be that these units would come off of the housing, and the way that they used to set it up was that if you couldn't find an eligible buyer, they would essentially, you'd be able to take it off the inventory, sell it for a market rate, and give to the town the difference between the subsidized rate and the actual sales price, which would then have to be going into a housing fund for affordable housing. I think they found that to be very, difficult, because there's no incentive to sell it for anything above what the seller was going to get. So they would just, so it was a bad deal.
Oh,
now,
okay.
yeah, now, my understanding of looking at the document is that you might sell it to a person who might not be eligible, but they would still be subject to the restriction, so that it would still remain a unit,
Right, it said, like, subsequently, if that person then wanted to sell it, it would still have it would be
Restriction.
in perpetuity. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how many units are going to be there?
Four subsidized units.
Four subsidized units.
And actually,
Which is actually, I was gonna say, it's actually greater than 10%, a little bit, but, which is good, because it's actually
Brings our-
bumping up our percentage just a little bit, which helps.
So there's four affordables that will qualify for the state subsidized housing inventory. There's an additional four because of the condition of permit that the planning put that are moderate income. Those have similar trappings in terms of deed restrictions and things, but it's not regulated by the state because they don't recognize those as being affordable. So there is two tiers of.
But they don't count towards our.
So that's,
Correct,
Yeah.
but I wanted to make that point for those watching, because there are going to be two price points below the market rate.
okay, so that is where my point comes. So they're advertising, and so who oversees that? And their in them administrating these moderate price houses, because that was with the planning board. So is this the planning board that is supposed to be monitoring it? Because they're saying that they're going to be selling moderate income prices, like high 300s and 400s, right? So when people have complaints that they're not really doing that, should they go to the planning board? Because that's a question a taxpayer from West Newbury has asked me.
The answer is yes. And then if the planning board should, it's the planning board's decision that would be considered, in violation of, and if they determine that, then would have to go with the zoning enforcement officer and town council to force.
So this person came to me, so I should send them to the planning board with their information.
Right.
Because they're advertising on their website that they're gonna have moderate priced housing, but when they go talk to the real estate person, they said that's really not what they're going to be doing. The realtor told me that, and if you want to talk to them about a moderate priced house, you have to pay them $3,000 that is non-refundable as a consultation fee for anyone who wants to talk about buying a unit. So can that be controlled by the planning board also? So they're going to sell moderate houses, and that has been part of their permitting process. Then for anybody to talk to them about one of those moderate priced houses, they have to pay a $3,000 non-refundable deposit, even if they don't buy a unit.
So, as you know, we spoke about this late last week. I was able to connect with a taxpayer today. I was very concerned about what I heard. And some of what I heard to me sounds like it is way out of line. So what I told her is that so let me back up a minute.
You listening to this, Jen?
Okay,
good.
The question was about, the initial question about who's responsible for making sure this is adhered to. And the planning board does have a role in it, but there's also this third party, who is responsible for designing and implementing the lottery process through the affirmative fair marketing plan. And they're responsible for ensuring that all of these standards are met and that the fair housing laws are complied with. And in this case, they've proposed the Chelmsford Housing Authority and a guy named David Hedison as the executive director. So they are named as the monitoring agent, and they do have an independent responsibility. I've worked with David for a long time, since 2010. They are excellent at what they do. I'm going to make a call to him tomorrow to let him know about what I heard, because I'm very concerned about it, and it's not appropriate. So,
Are they like the Chelmsford Housing Authority is like an independent contractor?
It's pretty unusual, because most housing authorities don't have, but they have something like 16 full-time staff. They have a big operation, and they do a lot of work far beyond Chelmsford. It's very unusual, just how it's
So they
developed over
just
the
make a
years.
little money on the side doing this kind of?
That's right.
16
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, but they are, they take this stuff very seriously, and some of what I heard does not align with my understanding of fair housing or anything about that, so.
Okay.
I don't want to, it's one person, I don't want to get ahead of, I don't have direct knowledge, but there's
But
certainly
it's definitely
enough that
something we need
we're-
to look into.
And we are looking into it, yes.
Good, thank you. Okay, so what do you want us to do? You want us to approve this stuff with, what Joe said?
I think to,
Contingent on the town council and Angus's agreement of that the form is filled out
I would be
properly?
very comfortable.
It's pretty much boilerplate stuff that,
Make the motion then?
so I would make a motion to approve the, what do I call it, the fair housing, no, not the fair housing, the agreement between,
The local action application, is that what it is?
I would actually suggest the language on the agenda was the recommended by the
Okay.
attorney, so I think if we can just simply.
so I would make a motion that we
Endorse the
endorse the application and all the attachments, including the deed restriction and affirmative fair marketing plan to the Department of Housing and Community Development for acceptance of local action units in West Newbury subsidized housing inventory, with the caveat that some small issues are further examined by town council
And the town manager.
and town manager.
Second. And this does not have, us approving this, it has nothing to do with the sidebar that they had with their permit about having moderate things.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's
that's something
separate.
totally different.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Do we need to sign those, or?
No, not until they're in appropriate form, and then the second is the item B.
approve the authority to sign the regulatory agreement once approved as the form by DHCD. That's a motion, you want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, make approval, minutes?
I move to approve the minutes of September 24th and October 1st, 2018.
Moved and it's been seconded. Any discussion or amendments?
No.
If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Angus, we've got a long list tonight.
We do. A lot of them are pretty,
Good.
maybe pretty quick, but I believe we may have someone in the audience for one of the issues related to mill pond and pipe save, so I don't know if you want to take that out of order.
I would, Angus, if you could come on up.
So we have two issues on the agenda related to mill pond and pipe save, but so perhaps we'll invite our guest to let us know your particular interest. I believe you're on the mill pond committee? Great.
Paul Delaney.
Thank you for being here.
Could you move that
Yeah, you
microphone
need
closer to
You
you?
need to move that closer. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Angus,
So we have two items that we've been working on.
we're going to start with Kay.
Let's start with K. Yes, so this is an update on work with Essex County Greenbelt to improve the accuracy of the conservation restriction GIS shapefile. So this goes back to August when we realized that the current conservation restriction is not actually part of the town's GIS, and there's not a data layer or a shapefile that delineates it. And so we had requested from Greenbelt if they had a shapefile. They sent it to us. It didn't align with our understanding. So basically, over the last 2 months or so, we've been working very collaboratively with them to try to get to a delineation that can be brought forward for all parties to review. And so that's basically underway. And we made some progress again late last week and today. Greenbelt has provided a proposed delineation as well as a proposed agreement to, I believe, clarify the boundary of the conservation restriction. So that will work through a process, and under the mill pond management plan, there are a number of parties withstanding to be involved in that and actually to have a vote on that. And so I provided these memos to each of the Mill Pond Committee, the Open Space Committee, the Conservation Commission, and the Park and Rec Commission, as well as to this board.
Can I make just a comment about the proposed delineation? I know it's not set in stone or anything like that, but it just seemed, and I haven't called up the map, but I looked at it over the weekend, I don't know if we're creating a little bit more confusion. If you look at the proposed new delineation of the town area and the conservation restriction area, the line goes right through that road that goes down towards the Dunn property and then makes a right-hand turn around the field. So it's sort of half the road is in.
That's true.
Is in the conservation restriction. The other half is in the town area, and it doesn't even cross at a 90-degree angle. It's going down at a very acute angle. I think we're going to okay, well, this part of the road is your problem, and this part of the road is the town's problem, and it just seems like that road, which everyone always thought was kind of the boundary, should be one or the other. It just seems confusing that it basically goes halfway down the road and then makes it 45-degree angle through the road. That seems like we're going to create more confusion.
So what are you saying? We should change the boundary? Is that what you're saying, or?
One way or the other, yeah.
Okay.
It just seems confusing because people use the road sort of as this part is town part and it's a natural boundary, and yet we're not using it.
Well, just to clarify, so the Exhibit D that was included in your packet, that is the plan of record. That's excerpted from the conservation restriction.
The one that says stake 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me call it out.
No, this one, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Archie, this one.
So
The one in the packet.
I agree.
Okay, that one. Okay.
Yeah, I agree, Archie, 100% with what you're saying, that is not an intuitive boundary and perhaps not what makes the most sense. but it is the plan of record that was voted back in 2001. And so Dave Rimmer has said that any material change from that would be a higher level of modification. That doesn't mean it's off the table, and if that's the direction that I hear as this works through the process, we can certainly talk with Greenbelt about that, but the attempt currently underway is to take this Exhibit D, which is the plan of record, and translate this to a better plan and a GIS shapefile as well that everyone can agree reflects this Exhibit D.
I'm looking, so.
So what I sent out earlier today is the current draft of, and that's not before you tonight. This is simply really an update on the process.
Okay, but that's what I was talking about. What we got today, what I'm looking at, seems like it will create additional confusion. That's all.
Yeah,
part of the road is one side, part of it's another side. It just doesn't seem like a good idea.
I agree, but we're 18 years too late for that.
It's what?
We're 18 years too late because
If you look at state number 5.
I know. Well, we've always been told that. It just hasn't been, we've been told in the middle of the road for years. We just haven't had it.
Not accurate.
well, the Exhibit D
Oh,
is
look at
not new.
this.
That's been around. That was recorded with the CR back in '01.
The shed.
So this is the time, though, Archie, to see if we can make it right.
I think that's
So
right.
Yeah.
Let's do it, and what are they gonna say, no? We
Well-
paid them money to make us,
And they said no before.
yeah. So,
Like, why, like, I don't know, it just seems like the town should have control of that. It's not really a road, but the dirt.
The access road.
The access road, and we sort of have the beginning of it, but not after it goes around the corner.
Well, that access,
Which is ridiculous.
that access road continues, and then it kind of feeds into a handicap parking
Right,
space,
mhm.
which that is going to be on Greenbelt property, period, because that's like into the field space. So part of the road, maybe not this part of the road, but that other part of the road will be on Greenbelt property, or is currently, I should say. It's off
This
the map.
goes-
It's off the map. It's that down
Off the
here.
map, yeah.
yeah.
So what happens at that point, Joe? Yeah, do you know?
Yeah, the road turns like this, loops into a handicap parking space.
Yeah, but where does this go?
Here, I'll pull up another map and I'll show you.
Where does that one go?
Oh.
Yeah, that comes down, and then there's a row of bushes, and then it comes right there, so it's kind of like right in the middle of the field. It's just the beginning. You know, you'd walk down that big thing behind the
So
basketball.
it would be like on the right field foul pole kind of.
No, it's farther down.
Farther down, okay.
Well, regardless of what it says, I mean, there's nothing that we're gonna do about it tonight. I need to drill
No, I
into
know,
this.
I'm just
Yeah, but let's
saying
talk
ahead
about
of time, can we maybe correct something?
Do we have you see, the thing that you gave us where this thing ends right here, how far does that go? So that goes all the way down to the soccer fields?
Yes. The road does.
No, I know the road, I'm talking, their restriction.
Yes.
That's why we can't put lights and everything down there.
Right. Yep.
So if what I'm
Bought
hearing,
it, and then we took away our rights to it, like the next article.
Did you have any comments you wanted to make, or?
Just a quick one, the delineation may have predated the soccer field construction. Might be why that road is.
That's a great
That
point.
could be.
Yeah, yeah. I think that goes back to, I can't remember when the soccer field went in, but I know the first agreement, I think, was 2001 time period, and the soccer fields were around that period.
And this access road, the baseball diamond was there before the access road, if I
Yes.
was correct.
Access
The
road.
black line is
Access
the
road.
delineation line,
Correct. Yeah.
so that's where I was talking about. It goes into the handicap parking.
So if hypothetically, right? If you look at that thing that Archie had, that if we wanted to come down that access road and provide additional parking over to Dunn Field, we couldn't do it.
Well,
We would have to get
no,
their
You would
permission.
have to get their permission.
Or we would have to realign the road and bring the
I
road
understand, but-
like that.
But what was proposed, we couldn't do, because we would actually ask to have their permission, because we would be
Because
going.
we were
over.
always
only
under
if
the
it was
assumption
proposed to
that
be
this
paved.
road was our purview.
What was,
Only if it was to be paved.
Yeah, I mean, the agreement allows the town to put in parking and access road in the restricted area to service it. There's some.
No, but
Yeah,
what
it
about
just
this,
can't be
what about
paved.
the service, something that's not in the restricted area, because that parking, well, no, in theory, that parking would be servicing that area, but it just wouldn't be in, okay, yeah, yeah,
Right, it'd still be just an access road.
okay. Okay, so what do you want to do about this?
Hey,
Do you have
well,
any more comments, or?
Angus was
I don't
just
have any
advising
comments
us.
on that section of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, for tonight, I'm just basically
Give us
letting
an
everyone
update.
knowing
Trying
we're
to get where
formally
we stand
starting
on
the
it.
process of
Okay.
inviting input from the various parties.
So let's do the next one then.
So the next one is also related to Pipe Stave and Mill Pond. This is regarding the management plan. I'm aware that this board, as well as others, have, had ideas about how to bring it up to date and so forth. So I just wanted to set out for everybody what process needs to be followed to amend the management plan. And there's a little bit of a, kind of an interesting wrinkle of this, the paragraph 16, which sets out how the management plan is amended, was never updated. So the 2001 language is what governs, and so I've included that language in your packet, but basically it provides that the amendment process involves Board of Selectmen, Mill Pond Committee, Park and Rec Commission, Conservation Commission, and any other elected or appointed board, committee, or commission. I believe this board has previously said that those four entities is who you would consider. You wouldn't expand that further, but that would be up to you. But the way that amendment would actually have to happen is that each of those boards, committees, or commissions would have a vote, and there would need to be a 2/3 majority.
So 3 of the 4 boards are
Exactly,
coming.
exactly.
Hold
So,
on, 3 of the 4 boards, or 3 of the 4 people there?
Boards.
3 of the 4 boards.
So it doesn't have to be 2/3 within the board, it just has to be a simple majority within the board, but 3 of the boards need to vote.
Yes.
That's how I would read it, and it would also require a 2/3 vote of town meeting.
It could be 3-2 in one board, and that would count as one vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the 2/3 vote of town meeting as well.
Okay.
Sounds excellent.
So in 2007, the management plan was amended, and
Designed that.
the language was a
Probably
little
the
bit.
same people that gave away our rights to Greenbelt at the time, to make it almost impossible to do anything down there. There you go.
So there were amendments to the management plan in 2007, but it doesn't appear that language ever went to town meeting, so that.
They didn't follow the proper protocol, so there is no language.
That's,
basically.
well, right.
It
It
was
was
fine,
2001
so,
language.
But it was also never ratified by Greenbelt.
That's
so
correct.
It's moot.
Yeah, so we're dealing with 2001, let's make sure everybody realizes that.
Right, yeah, so I think that, I think it's gonna take some time for this all to play out. I know the Mill Pond Committee is meeting tomorrow, and this is on their agenda. Park and Rec is also meeting tomorrow, and it's, I don't know if it's on their agenda, but they're aware of it. And basically, it's kind of underway, so I would suggest we'll hear back from the committees. Although certainly if this board wants to start volunteering potential changes to the management plan, either tonight or just send me emails or give me a call, I'll keep note of all of that.
Is there any way we can get out of the conservation restriction that's held by Greenbelt? Okay. Did you have anything you want to speak about this?
No, if there was further discussion, about our involvement in decisions and whatever, I just want to protect our position to be involved in future changes.
Without a
decisions.
doubt. You'd be the first ones we call.
We're looking to, simplify the process, and of course, the 2/3 majority is something we'd like to change as well.
You would?
We would.
Good.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, there's some.
So when we
things-
get started, obviously you guys will give us your we'll do it all together, obviously, but have your positions, we'll have ours, and I guess everybody else is gonna have theirs. Okay, anything else?
Very good, I think I'm
No,
good.
now, on a timetable thing, do we see this going to Springtown meeting?
I would very much like to get paragraph 16 to Springtown meeting, and I would think that town meeting, while the overall management plan isn't specifically within their authority, I would think town meeting would want to know what changes had been made. So what I've set out is an objective to have a pretty good idea by the end of this calendar year of what are the changes that we're looking at. And yes, I would like to get the paragraph 16 on for the spring.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you
Have a good
very
night.
Thanks.
So Angus, why don't we start up with G, please?
Okay, so
Go back up.
Item G is, will look familiar. This was before you, I believe, in early September or August. So I'm bringing forward a updated wage classification plan. The hourly rates are the same as what you saw before, but the math on the annualized rate is, I believe, more accurate in what I put before you tonight. So I would look for your endorsement on that, or happy to answer any questions.
Any questions by anyone?
Are there,
Do you have a question, Joe?
yeah, are there, where are people on their actual wages versus their level? Are they like on their level all over the map, or what?
It varies. They're not all within the level.
Okay.
Or I should say within the range. There are certain employees whose position is stated as a certain range on their job description, but their actual compensation doesn't fall within the range. I think part of that's a function of the fact that this hadn't been approved,
Updated.
brought forward by former finance directors for the past several fiscal years.
Yeah, we basically use the salary schedule versus this, yeah.
Right.
Okay, okay.
Okay, do you have any questions about it? No. Move to approve it?
I move to approve the revised FY19 wage classification plan.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or concerns? None? All in favor? Aye. Okay.
The next item is proposed updates to the severe weather policy, which in a nutshell would transfer that decision-making from the chair of the Board of Selectmen to me. Based on
So, anybody have any questions or concerns about that?
2 comments.
Joe, we'll start with you, and I think Archie would like to say something.
Okay. So in terms of adding some, I agree with the change to do that. I would like to add some guidance actually written into the policy. And we've in the past, what we've tried to do is follow the governor's office of to close when they close. We're not, no offense to Pentucket or any other school, but we don't close when schools close. We can withstand 3 inches of snow.
Yeah, because they
you
have
have buses.
Yeah, they have a whole different
Yeah,
issue.
It's a different dynamic.
Safety with buses.
So what I would like to throw out for discussion is that the town manager shall endeavor to follow the consistency of the governor's office in determining when to close. Given similar weather in West Newbury and Boston, there should not generally be time when the executive branch is open and West Newbury is closed. So it's not just guidance. Then the other thing is an observation. It's as it currently is written, the selectmen would go from making the decision on when to close to not even being notified. So I would add the selectmen to the list of people that the town administrator would notify.
Town manager.
No, the executive administrator is the person in the policy that does the notification. What?
I said okay.
Oh, okay. So those are my comments.
Archie?
I think I think that having said that, that's sort of what we tried to do last year, and that's what, when I was chairman, that's what I tried to do, is listen to what the governor had to say, but I'm not so sure that we have to have it
Black and white like that?
in black and white,
Well,
yeah.
I think Joe didn't say that. He just said that he was
Well,
giving some guidance.
no, I would say to add that in the policy, and the reason is, we might not be here in 5 years. We might be somewhere else. Angus might not be here in I mean, who knows?
I hope not.
I mean, I hope he is. I hope he's here a lot longer than we are. But just to get, it's just to give some guidance.
We might
There's,
have a crazy governor in 5 years.
right, there's nothing, in the way I spoke, there's nothing absolute in that. It's just some pretty direct guidance. So what's your thought?
My thought, basically what I've written up is essentially the same practice I followed in my old job. And, you know, the way I looked at it is if I make a bad call, the elected board that I work for will make it known that they weren't happy about the call I made. That never happened in my old job. I think I used good judgment. I will obviously follow whatever policy you say, but I would just remind that we are in a home rule commonwealth. So you know, to me, just this implication that somehow the state has wisdom that our public works director and police chief can't collectively.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that.
Well, but
What I was talking about
I
is.
guess that's what I heard.
Yeah, no, then let me try again. I'm talking about levels of, like, how much snow we get. Let's say they have and I don't know how they make their determinants, so I'll just take an arbitrary number that they close after 10 inches, whatever the number is, I don't know what they do. So that we're not in a situation where we're closing like at half that amount. And yeah, obviously you need to talk to the DPW director, police chief, that's a great idea. And I think that's, you know, past practice, what we've done too.
I think
I
we kind
disagree, you're micromanaging.
Yeah, I don't want to micromanage it either. I think we're micromanaging too. And if we don't like the fact that Angus is hungover on a Monday and there's an inch of snow on the ground, he calls it, right? We'll tell him.
Okay, I'm just trying to avoid problems before they happen.
No, we're micromanaging. I don't want to do that. I would make a motion that we go with the proposal that was set forward by Angus tonight.
So you don't want to be notified if the office is closed?
Okay, I would think that we would, yes.
Well,
With that amendment, with that we would be notified.
okay,
I would
second.
assume that we would, but
Well,
thank you, no, but.
doesn't say that.
No, you're, yeah. I
Second.
want to be notified.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, next. Aye?
Yes.
Aye. No, but that's a good point.
So item I is simply informational. I think our, you know, treasurer has gotten us some better interest rates. I just wanted to make the board aware of that.
This is great.
Isn't it?
I like getting this kind of information.
It's Archie's day.
Yes, I enjoy it.
Remember, he was the guy that kept on going, okay, so how much, now, what are these solar fields? I want to know exactly what it was saved in this.
I haven't forgotten.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Any questions on this? If not, thank you for that. We are now to.
I believe item M.
J, proposed review evaluation of town layout.
Oh, right, sorry.
We're gonna put that on hold because we're gonna discuss that later. I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep.
I thought.
Yep, that's what we said.
If not.
That's what we said.
M?
This is also just informational, no action requested, but where this notice of intent does commit the town to certain actions, particularly in this first FY19, there will be subsequent work over the 5-year life of the permit. Just wanted to make you aware of what we are obligated to. It is not insignificant. So,
Are we going to be able to handle what we're obligated to?
yes, we will.
It seems pretty,
It's a lot. Well, and as you know, back in early September, I did suggest a warrant article to bring in some outside support. That was not. I did not get the support for that in terms of funding, but we can get some things done with the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission and the LTA.
I thought subsequently you said, though, that within the DPW budget, you had adequate funding.
I think what Gary has said is that if we really feel that Gary has represented that there's adequate discretion in his budget, that if we feel we need to bring in some kind of outside consultant, particularly in these 4 major work items, that there is some funding there. So I'm not there yet. Basically, I think what needs to happen is with the new DPW director, the LTA hours, and the contributions of different staff, I need to really push the department heads to say, what can you commit to, and figure out what the gaps are.
Okay. And I think this is a follow-up from a previous meeting.
It was, yeah, the board had voted back on August 3rd to put this back on the agenda October 29th, so here we are.
Joe, this was your request.
Well,
We're just following up because you said we were going to address it. So.
I mean, I don't know what information we get and what information we don't get, so it's kind of hard to comment on it.
That's my feeling too. I don't know if there was something we should have tried or I don't know.
Okay. With that said, the level of communication we're getting do you feel is sufficient? And then you say, I don't know. Because I don't know what.
It's certainly less than last year.
But isn't that better?
I don't know. I don't know.
But all communications that come in go into that folder, so we all have the ability to look at that correspondence stuff.
Okay. I mean, is that accurate? Or?
No, any correspondence that's sent to the selectman's email, I guess I would defer to Mary, but no, I mean, I get a lot of correspondence. Yeah, I mean, for example, the
Merrimack Valley planning.
Well, even just, that pipe state management plan, there's 2 months of work behind this memo.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's a matter of, do you want it when it's ripe and when it's ready for you all to consider it, or do you want those 70 or 80 emails? Actually, that probably might cover 2 weeks of. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of communication that goes on. So,
actually, if you want to know the truth, I'd kind of prefer a happy medium.
I believe
who gets to pick that happy medium? Maybe he thinks this is a good happy medium, and so, but you don't know because you don't know what filtering out.
Right. That's true.
I also, my only question to you, Angus, is, are you, you say you don't want to, the one thing I think is you don't need to worry about is if we got something, would we then be answering back or whatever and, being in violation of the open meeting law? I don't think we ever getting into that situation. So I tend not to, I read something, but I don't necessarily answer anything related back to that. And I think we're pretty good about that. But I don't think that's an issue. But by the same token, I don't think you should be spending 20 minutes going through things and then deciding, is it more work? I don't want to create more work for you deciding which things you think are relevant versus which things aren't relevant. I don't know. But you tell me that.
I mean, I look at these meetings as the decision points where this board is assembled and has a quorum and where you make decisions. So when issues come in... No,
but I don't think it's about decision-making. It's just sort of being in and out of
information,
out of the loop is for.
But we hired a town manager to run the town. Do we need to know about every little thing that comes in? I don't think. But I think when you say we have less information than we had last year, I think we have more information in our packets and stuff than in preparation for our meeting and what we're making decisions
Well,
about.
In our packet, yeah, but that's not what we're talking about.
I know, but I understand that. So if you want to know about every little thing and maybe commenting on it or see where it's going, then maybe we shouldn't have hired a town manager.
No, I don't want to comment on it. That's what I mean. I don't.
You just want to know the information? Just in case you want to read it.
Yeah,
I mean, because stuff interests you, like this thing, or if we got something in about solar fields, you might not think, but that would be really interesting to you. I mean, I'm just picking off something, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't.
And you wouldn't comment on it, but you just read it, and it might not even pertain to West Newbury or what we're doing, but you just like to get that information.
Yeah. I don't know.
But okay. Well, it's whatever's working, it seems to be working, and you hear the board. If you could try to share some more stuff if you want, but I don't. What do you want to? This was put on the agenda for you, Joe, so,
Me? Well, I think Archie and me.
oh, I'm sorry. But you're the one who asked for an update on it when we were talking about it, so I made sure I asked to make sure I was aware of it, so I wouldn't forget. Whatever, for all of us, I guess, but you know what I'm saying? I just want to make sure you feel good about it, or you don't feel good, or.
I don't care.
That's what I'm saying, that's all it's here for.
Okay, for example, here's something that I would like to know about, just as a for instance. Information that is disseminated from the Commonwealth, things, you know, just general emails from the governor or the Secretary of State or something like that, that are just general informational things that go out to.
That might not even pertain to West Newbury, but just might be informational for you.
Right, that go to the, you know, mayor's offices and boards of selectmen and stuff.
Generic.
That's something I'd like to see,
Okay.
even if it's irrelevant, if it's about swimming pools.
Well, that's what I meant when I said earlier about you, I mean, something about solar, I was just using that, but something that you just would come in. So, do you hear us?
No. And I really want to hear from Joe, because he's obviously got some thoughts on it.
No, I don't have, I don't have anything to add. I don't have any specific.
Okay. I mean, there are times that I think it would benefit this board to know the number and range of requests that we receive and we resolve, but they're resolved. I mean, I feel like that's part of my job, and things come, I mean, for instance, when we get to discussion of future agenda items, I have a number of things on there. One example is River Access Committee. I've met with them. We've had a number of correspondences. I've spoken with the title attorney. You know, there's a lot going on there. By the time that gets to you, oh, geez, there's a lot going on here. Do you want the play-by-play? Maybe you do. But if you want that on the 80 or 90 different issues that I'm handling on a weekly basis,
But you see what? But that's not what I said. I'm thinking of like these kind of
that I understood.
Informational.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Informational
I definitely
things.
understand what Archie is saying.
Okay,
Yes.
Well, that's what I mean,
said.
you're hearing me, so yeah, so that would be more even like a correspondence thing that are in there, stuff that just comes in, and I've even, you know, Merrimack Valley, you know, I've looked at that file, you know, there are some stuff. So if you're hearing in that respect, and let's just go along and see what happens, and if he has any, if Joe has any concerns.
For example, something from the Department of Labor about labor relations, or just that, those kinds of things that are coming from mostly from the state.
That would have information on it that might not be pertinent to West Newbury, but
Or might be,
find
but
interesting.
not
As a role
even
as a selectman.
timely, but something that you just file in the back of your mind for the future. Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
okay?
Yep, I'm fine.
Okay. Next thing?
So we are pleased.
Glenn,
No.
Glenn.
May I speak to the last point?
Okay.
The only question I have is, too much information is not bad, and I don't understand the issue. Why don't you just flood the emails, and everybody has a chance to look at everything, and everything's above board, it's total transparency, and it doesn't have to be like, oh, I have to, because today's technology is so easy to give everybody everything. Give everybody everything. That's my attitude. Anyway.
Okay.
I don't want everything.
I mean,
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay. So review the communication protocol between the board and staff, okay, that was done. And so,
Minutes, clerk.
Where are we at?
we were at, the minutes clerk. I thought we, what are we doing with this?
we have hired a minutes clerk who will be starting with tonight's meeting, and
Welcome.
she'll be doing it remotely.
Right.
So that's going to be Kathleen Hines, or Kat Hines. She's a Groveland resident. She's going to be doing this work for both the planning board and the board of selectmen, based on the approved budget.
Good.
And can I ask what the
Yeah.
salary is?
Because I thought
that kind of thing?
I thought we weren't gonna do this, but this is whatever. Okay.
It's $20 an hour.
Okay, good.
P?
So I have a list, I'm sure you all do as well, in terms of future agenda items. Do you want me
Oh,
to
he has,
start with my
Pete,
list?
follow-up meeting assignments, was there
Oh,
anything?
follow-up meeting assignments, yeah. Chairman had talked about the backup to the model on the school funding, so that'll be, that's a follow-up.
Do you want that just emailed to you, or?
I'm going to print it.
Oh,
Adding the Rural Policy Advisory Commission information on the website, Mary will do that. I'll notify Parks and Rec about the request for the sign at Ferry Park.
Yep.
that's it. Okay. Future agenda.
Yep, I have a couple of things. Not a future agenda item, but we haven't talked about it for a while. But if you could give us an update, or maybe just email us an update individually, we won't comment on it, about the new DPW director, to make sure that's all.
We do have a, yes.
So we just don't, we know it's out there.
Release, yeah.
It's actually sitting on your desk.
Okay.
There's a press release sitting on your desk.
Who made the press release?
We drafted it today.
Okay.
It's not, hasn't been released to the press.
But it's on the
your
desk, not
on
in the
your
box?
on your desk, ready for your signature,
Okay.
or editing. It's a draft.
Okay, I didn't see it. Okay. Okay. And then one thing I'd like to talk about at our next meeting is to have a conversation with us about talking to the other two boards of selectmen about the proposed new middle and high school. Maybe we could meet a couple of times through the process and do like more collaborative effort and talk to them, see if they have some ideas just about, you know, I don't know, breaking the ice. Maybe
Have discussion.
just have a discussion.
And inviting the superintendent, I'm presuming. Or?
Yes, and inviting the superintendent, and just, but having a posted meeting, we could host it. We don't, we could go to there, but I think it would be important to try to meet as a board, as boards, to have that discussion. And maybe we can help them, maybe they can help us financially, you know, and just ideas, and just, I think it would be better for the whole process if we all come together.
I totally agree. Question, so is the meeting that you're going to have with the two other finance, with the finance directors from the other two towns, is that still on, or?
It is, yeah, with the superintendent.
When's that?
I believe that's a week from Thursday.
Please check. Okay, so that is the only thing I have. Do you have anything for future agenda?
I'd just like to hear an update about the generator next time at the paid school.
Excellent.
Is that when it is?
I actually have, I could give brief updates tonight on the generator, on the water,
It's done on the agenda.
okay, or the bridge. I have all of that information.
What's the, what was the
We'll do
second
that
item?
next time.
The sink in the Page School.
Oh,
Why don't we, can you put all those things on the agenda for next time, please?
Yep.
Yeah.
I did send out an emailed update. I could give more
Hey.
detail if you'd like.
Okay, Joe, do you have anything or no?
was that, I do, is that your whole list?
No, I haven't gone to my list.
I haven't started with him. Why don't we start with us and then he'll go? So Archie's gone, I've gone. How about you, Joe?
Okay. Okay, so at our last meeting, we said we were going to invite the FinCom in next meeting, not next week, and talk about the DLS financial policies that we already said. So I don't know, are they aware of that?
I have not contacted them yet.
Okay. And then also.
That will be an agenda item.
I've got it on my list, yep.
We also agreed back last summer that on November 13th, and I believe that's the next meeting, that we would talk about FY20 budget and capital priorities. We voted that on August 6th to do that.
Okay, that's going to be on the agenda. Anything else?
Yeah, it says budget capital priorities. Actually, it says Selectmen, Town Manager, FinCom, and CIC. That's what it says. No, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Angus, do you have anything?
I do. You had already announced that the tax classification hearing will be on the 13th. I've got a joint meeting with FinCom, update from the River Access Committee.
Joint meeting with, is that the same one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That was on his list.
Update from the Harbor Committee. Update on discussions with superintendent and reps from the other towns regarding the regional agreement and the Regional Finance Advisory Committee. November 6th, okay, so that's just staff.
The meeting's the 6th, so you'll be prepared for the 13th.
Correct, yep. Discussion of traffic safety at Georgetown Road and Crane Neck intersection. That was an email we received on 9/17. This next one is subject to the chair putting it on the agenda, but there was a request from Tom Atwood on the discussion of the CPA surcharge and the potential to discontinue it. So he had requested that for a future agenda. Then I have a discussion of FY20 budget, which was already covered, and then the other items that were covered.
Perfect. Anything else? If not, make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.